You're listening to the Amazing Facts Daily Devotional. Today's topic, Dan, God's Mirror, Part 2. When Dan's heart broke and he acknowledged his sins, the Lord forgave him. He then began attending church with his brother and sister-in-law. And through Bible studies, Dan came to know God in a personal way. It was time to get off the fence and make a decision. I knew what my sins were. I knew how they had governed my life. God's words were impossible to deny. He made a firm decision to quit drinking alcohol and using drugs, and a few months later, Dan was baptized. But he didn't know that God had a deeper story still to write in his life. The journey of sanctification is not a smooth one, Dan says. I thought that after I stopped using and got baptized, I was on the road to success and happiness. But a few years later, while overseas, Dan experienced another serious injury. Once more, he was having to deal with excruciating pain. I started using again, he shares. And although I didn't stop going to church, I stopped my home studies and started crowding out the Sabbath. While his wife was shocked by his changes, Dan simply couldn't quit. Yet once more, God used amazing facts to speak to Dan's heart. I watched Pastor Doug's video about Peter walking on water, but then he turned his face away from Jesus and started to sink. He cried out, "Save me!" Dan realized that he'd turned his eyes away from Jesus after his accident, and that he had started sinking. Once I realized I was Peter, I knew I had to turn back to Jesus. I got down on my knees and prayed for the Lord to take Satan's temptations away and give me strength through his Holy Spirit. Dan has a special message for those who struggle with sin. When you find yourself growing weak and looking back at the world and you feel yourself sinking, that's when you need to realize that you have the freedom to turn away, to look back at Jesus. Your commitment to God is a relationship you need to work on every day. If you come to Him, He'll pick you back up out of the water. When you fall back into sin, are you tempted to make excuses or minimize your situation? Humbly acknowledge your absolute dependence upon God, and He will save you. Our key Bible text today comes from Matthew chapter 14 and verse 30. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." Thank you for listening to the Amazing Facts Daily Devotional.